Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again I'm coming to you with another range report. And as you can tell from the rifle we have on the workbench today, we're going to be reviewing something pretty darn high end. And this is from a company I have never reviewed any products from before, Cobalt Kinetics. But I've only heard great things about them. They have a really interesting company philosophy. They build guns from the ground up using only the highest quality parts and the latest technology. In fact, this barrel that's on this rifle is carbon fiber wrapped. I really have no experience with barrels like this, but they're supposed to be very durable, very accurate, and lightweight. Now, the model you see is the SPR Elite 6mm ARC with a 20-inch barrel. And SPR stands for Special Purpose Rifle. So I think the philosophy of use of this gun is very similar to the old Mark 12s. Essentially, it's an accurized intermediate cartridge AR platform gun. But you could also use it as a defensive rifle or defensive carbine. So it tries to bridge that gap. And we're going to try to review this gun in both those capacities. So, before we take this really cool and interesting gun to the range and I talk about all the things I like and don't like about it, and of course go over all of its specs, there's a few people I have to give a huge shout out to. First and foremost is the owner of this rifle who lent it to the channel for review, and he has an amazing collection and I always appreciate all of his support. He's a local fan and subscriber named D. You've heard me talk about him in so many videos, so thank you again, D, for all you do for the Texas Gun Vault community. Of course, I also have to give a huge shout out to my Patreon supporters because through their monthly donations and support they help keep the lights on around here, and I could not create this content without them. And if you want to join my Patreon for as little as $1 a month, there's a link in the description below and you'll get to see all of these videos early. And of course, I have to give another huge shout out to my primary channel sponsor, an amazing grip company called Brownworks. And you know I'm always talking about Brownworks in all of my range reports because I'm so honored to be sponsored by them because I think the grips that the owner, Mark, makes are absolutely gorgeous and beautiful. You need to go check out his website. He makes grips for guns like Colt 1911s, Browning High Power, CZ75s, and Beretta 92s, just to name a few. He can apply custom logos, custom engravings, custom textures, finish the grips in a wide variety of colors, apply exotic materials like snakeskin and alligator skin, and even create his own laminate woods. So I'm going to put a link to his website in the comment section below, as well as a coupon code. For 10% off your first order, I'm going to ask you to go over there and check out everything he has to offer. And when you place your first order of a set of custom Brownworks grips, please tell him the Texas Gun Vault sent you. All right, so we have so much to talk about when it comes to this rifle, so I'm going to go ahead and adjust the camera and we're going to go over all of the features and specs of this SPR Elite. So let's take a closer look at this Cobalt Kinetics SPR Elite. And please bear with me as the rifle is so long I can't get it all into frame at once. But we can see this beautiful camo pattern finish on it, which is Cerakoted. It looks great. The barrel on this rifle is 20 inches long. It is chambered in 6mm ARC. They do offer these in 5.56 as well. The internal components of the barrel are made of 416R stainless steel. It is wrapped in carbon fiber. You can see that really interesting pattern on the outside. It is a match grade barrel with a rifle length gas system. The handguard is made of 6061 aluminum. It is semi-monolithic and has tons of M-LOK slots all over it for all of your various accessories. The receivers are made of 7071 T6 aluminum. Internally, the bolt carrier has a full auto profile. We have ambidextrous controls, as you can see on both sides. It comes with a Radian Raptor LT charging handle and a B5 Systems Type 23 grip and a B5 Systems precision stock. So we get all of these different adjustments on it because this is primarily designed as a precision rifle. And when it comes to the trigger, we have a Geisley Super National Match 2-stage. So I'm really excited to see what that trigger pulls like. So the next thing I'm going to do is get out the Lyman trigger pull weight gauge and measure how heavy or light it is. And for this test, I went ahead and removed the stock so it doesn't interfere with the trigger pull weight gauge. But let's go ahead and safety check the firearm, drop the magazine, ensure there is no ammunition in it, and then turn the rifle over and visually inspect the chamber. Make sure we are empty, and it looks like we are good. Now let's take a look at the pull of this two-stage trigger from Geissele. And like all two-stage triggers, we have a very short and smooth take up to the wall. And man, that breaks like a glass rod. That might be one of the nicest feeling AR triggers I've ever felt. And then we have the reset. Pretty long, but that's typical of a two-stage trigger. Then we have that take up back to the wall. I would say this trigger feels like a typical two-stage trigger on the take up, but it breaks even better than you would expect. That feels really, really nice. Okay, so let's clear any averages on the gauge and let's test this trigger and see what it actually measures at. So for our first pull, we have 3 pounds, 8.2 ounces. And that's actually a little bit heavier than I thought it would be. £3 pounds, 5.8 ounces. £3 pounds, 3.1 ounces. £3 pounds, 5.8 ounces. And finally, we have 3 pounds, 5.5 ounces, which gives us an average of 3 pounds, 5.7 ounces. And that result really does surprise me, as I said, because this trigger feels so much lighter. It feels so crisp. I absolutely love it. It's very predictable. So that's all the features and specs of this rifle and what the trigger measures at. So now let me go ahead and readjust the camera and let's talk about all the things I like and don't like about it before taking it to the range. And as always, before going to the range with any firearm I have into the channel for a review, I always like to share with you my thoughts on the things I like and don't like about it, and I always want to start with the positive first. And the first thing I love about this gun, just holding it, is its build quality. It definitely feels solid. It feels well built. And as I mentioned in the opening, Cobalt Kinetics is known for building rifles from the ground up with the best parts available. And I think that is definitely what you get here. Perception is reality. And when I held this for the first time, I was like, wow, that feels like a solid AR. I'm also a big fan of this camo finish. They offer many other finishes as well, but it looks evenly applied. It's absolutely gorgeous. I have no problems with it, and I really feel like all of their Cerakote jobs, based off of the pictures I've seen, are honestly top-notch. I'm a big fan of the barrel length as well, and even though they offer other barrel lengths, I feel that for a precision rifle, you need 18 or 20 inches of barrel length to really maximize the performance of either 6mm arc or 5.56. I know shorter barrels can be just as accurate, but I think you're going to get better terminal ballistics with the longer barrel. Now, there are a couple things about this gun I don't like. Now, the first one is the balance and the weight. I told you the barrel is carbon fiber wrapped. It's supposed to be lightweight, but this whole rifle feels very front heavy. Yeah, it has a 20-inch barrel, and maybe it's the weight of the handguard, but I feel like the build itself is really heavy and unbalanced. Not that that means it's going to be a bad gun, but if you were going to shoot this from the shoulder, you might notice that. I know, that is a really small gripe. The other thing about this build I don't like is the stock. Now, I think B5 Industries makes amazing stocks, and this is probably going to be pretty good. I have just found that these B5 systems are a little bit harder to adjust. I really feel that Magpul makes a better stock for this type of platform, but we're going to have to take this to the range. I'm going to adjust the stock and see how it works for me. Now, I mentioned earlier, some people might get this rifle and use it both as a carbine and an SPR. So we're going to first review this as a defensive rifle or defensive carbine. I should also note I have limited ammunition, and 6mm ARC is kind of expensive. So I'm not going to put this gun through all of its normal paces that you would see me do with other guns. And that's just because I don't have a lot of ammunition and I really want to save it for the longer distance range. Also, we are going to shoot this rifle unsuppressed and suppressed. And the can we have on loan to the channel also from D is the Lazarus 6 from Dead Air. I'm also going to do a review on this. So our first shots at the range are just going to be at 10 yards. I want to make sure that this rifle functions. I'm curious what its recoil impulse is, and I also want to know what it sounds like unsuppressed and suppressed. So let's just go to the range, put a few rounds through it, and let's get my first impressions, and I'll come back here to the garage and we'll talk about it. Now I know some people are going to question the validity of that test. Well, it was just simply a function test. I wanted to get some trigger time on it to see what I'm going to expect from the other tests. And what did I discover? Well, obviously it shot a little bit low because this zero compromise scope is zeroed for much further distances. It has a very low recoil impulse, even in 6mm ARC. It is a little bit unbalanced, but man, does it sound amazing suppressed. I was most impressed by that. In fact, this Lazarus 6 has a flow-through baffle design, and I can tell you the gun doesn't have a lot of residual gas coming through the ejection port. So it's a very pleasant firearm to shoot. So far, I'm liking it. All right, so the next test I'm going to do is double the distance of this target. Once again, I am just reviewing this right now as a defensive carbine. We will get to the longer distance range in just a moment. But now that I know what to expect, let's put some more rounds through it and see if there's anything else about it that I discover that I like or don't like. And I'll come back here to the garage and report to you on it. And pretty much my thoughts after this test are going to mirror my thoughts of the previous test. It's a great gun. It's functioning great. Its recoil is a little bit more than 5.56, but that's to be expected with 6mm ARC. The faster I shot it, I did begin to notice more gas coming from the ejection port, but that might be more the suppressor than anything else. I really feel like this gun is perfectly gassed, so depending on what can you have out on the front, you might get different results. But right now, it's really working great. And yes, those shots were a little bit low. As I mentioned, the gun is front heavy, and with the suppressor, it adds a little bit more weight out there. So it's not the most comfortable gun to shoulder, but that's not what this gun primarily is designed to do. But I still have a few more tests I want to run with it as a defensive rifle. And the next test is the quick magazine change test. I'm just curious, if I shoot this gun fast, how easy is this magazine to change out? And as you might know, we do have some longer 6mm arc mags as well. But unfortunately, if you're running an AR and 6mm arc, these are not compatible with 5.56. So if you want to change calibers, not only do you have to change the barrel, you have to change the bolt carrier and the magazine. So let's go back to the range. Let's see how fast I can shoot this gun and change the magazine out. And even though this trigger is designed for precision shooting, you can definitely still shoot it fast. It is very crisp and very light. It also took me a little bit longer than I wanted to get the gun back on target because of its weight distribution. But the magazine change itself is quick and easy. Sometimes with these billet lowers, they're not always milled to perfection. I find them to be a little bit tighter with mini magazines, and this one seems to be absolutely perfect. All right, so the last test I want to do as a defensive rifle is not really a test at all. It's just me wanting to have some fun with it. It's the mag dump test. So yes, we're going to shoot a bunch of rounds through it, but maybe not as many as I normally do. As I said, I'm trying to reserve my ammo for the next tests, which are the longer distance tests. So let's just go back to the range. Let's shoot this gun as fast as I can in a single mag dump, and then we'll move on to the 100-yard range. And normally after the mag dump tests, I always talk about how much fun they are. Well, was it fun? Well, yeah. The gun has a little bit more recoil than 5.56, as I previously mentioned. And it's a little bit harder to keep on target because of its weight, but the big problem with that mag dump was the cost. 6mm arc is really expensive, so that was one of the most expensive mag dumps I think I've ever done. But I did want to run the gun that way just to see if it would work. And it did. So was it fun? Kind of, but probably not for your pocketbook. All right, so now it's time to take this rifle to the longer distance range. And yes, this gun can go out to 400, 500, or 600 yards and beyond. But I only have access to a 100-yard range, and I'm just an average gun guy, and you might have the funds to buy something as beautiful as this, and you might just want to shoot out to 100 yards. So that's what we're going to test. And of course, if I have any problems, you can extrapolate this data out to further distances. So to start sighting this gun in, we're just going to start at 50 yards, and we are using match grade ammunition, so hopefully I'm going to get a consistent and good group. So let's move on to the longer distance range and start to shoot this rifle from the bench. And now the rifle is performing exactly as I expected it would. It definitely is a precision rifle. Now that was a great group for me, but I want you to pay attention to one aspect of it, which we're going to talk more about when we shoot it at 75 and 100 yards. Notice the shape of the group. It looks like a line on the bottom of the bullseye. But we're going to talk more about why I think that group looks like it does in just a moment. But right now, I think it's shooting great. So now let's go out to 75 yards, put a few more rounds through it, and see if I can duplicate those results. And as an average gun guy, I'm pretty happy with that group. But there was something about it I noticed. It was just like the one at 50 yards. And the point of impact moved as I was recording. So my first shot started very much to the right, and I had the reticle on the center of the target. And as the firearm warmed up, the barrel got hot, the suppressor got hot, the point of impact started to shift to the left. Now, what you might not know is that there was about 30 minutes of time between my 50 round shots and my 75 round shots. And that's because when I'm at the range, I like it to be quiet, especially when I'm shooting suppressed. After I shot at 50 yards, there were some people that came in with their rifles and set up and was trying out some new hand loads. So I let them do what they were going to do, and I did not want to interfere with them, and I didn't want all of their talking on camera. So I waited and the rifle cooled off. So I'm starting to think that as this gun gets warmer, it could be the barrel, it has a huge point of impact shift. So if you have ever shot with a carbon fiber barrel that has a sleeve inside, is this something that you notice? Does the gun need to be warm for you to get a consistent group? Now, the only thing I can do to confirm this even more is to now set up the target at 100 yards, which is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to report back to you if that's what I discover. But I'm curious what you all have to say. So now let's set up the target at 100 yards. I'm going to put a few more rounds through it and just see what happens to this group and if I can continue to shoot this rifle well. And I did wait about 20 minutes to take those shots because I did want the rifle and the suppressor to cool down to see if I got the same results. And I did. The The point of impact started on the right and moved to the left as the gun warmed up. I also know some people ask, how big is that target you're actually shooting at? Well, I brought one home from the range so you can see a comparison of its size based off of my head. So if I can get a group in that center bullseye or in the 10 ring, I'm usually really happy at 100 yards. But as I mentioned, the point of impact shift was pretty dramatic and noticeable, and it's definitely there as the gun gets warmer. So tell me if you have any experience with carbon fiber barrels, does this often happen? That's the only thing I can think of. I know suppressors can change the point of impact, but normally it's a consistent change, not one that changes over time. That's the only thing about this gun that honestly kind of concerns me. I wonder what it would be like to shoot it with an all-metal barrel. So, what are my final thoughts with the Cobalt Kinetics SPR Elite in 6mm arc with a 20-inch barrel? Well, this definitely seems like one well-built high-end rifle. I love all the parts that they put on it, and I have to say I'm kind of warming up to this B5 system stock. It's okay. This gun functions much better as a DMR than a defensive rifle, but that is to be expected. It is a little bit unbalanced. It is a little bit front heavy. It's gassy when you shoot it fast with a suppressor, and the trigger is absolutely amazing. But the biggest concern for me, of course, is that point of impact shift. And I think it's the barrel. Maybe, maybe not, but I'll have to do some more research into this. So on my star system, how would I rate the Cobalt Kinetics SPR Elite? Well, I'm going to give it 4.75 stars out of 5. Almost a perfect review. If I got more consistent groups at the longer distance range, it would easily be 5 out of 5 stars, especially because it's designed as a precision rifle, and it really exceeds at that, except for that point of impact shift as it gets warmer. So tell me in the comments section below, what do you know about carbon fiber barrels? What do you know about Cobalt Kinetics? And do your experiences with those things mirror mine? So, as always, thanks for watching.